Several years ago, I got a handful of chickens. Then a couple years later, I got a few more. And a couple years after that, I got a few more. I got a whole bunch of chickens now. I also have a couple of raised garden beds. I've got probably around 300 square feet of land that is dedicated to growing my own food, which is fertilized by the chickens. I've got fruit trees. I've got a strawberry patch. I've got, a quarter acre of wild natural blackberries. Got a mulberry tree. And I started doing all this about a decade ago when I started reading the Economic Collapse blog. Now, this is written by Michael Snyder, and a lot of people say he is the doom purveyor meant to scare people. Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of his articles are terrifying, but most of his articles come true sooner rather than later. I don't regret doing any of the things I did because I read his blog and knew what to expect. When we had the toilet paper shortage, and when we had the baby food shortage, and when we had the price of chicken that went up 200-300%, didn't affect me at all. Now, I'll give you a warning. Today's article is going to be, it's going to be terrifying. So this would be your content trigger warning for you snowflakes that happen to stumble on this page by mistake. For everybody else, you can handle it. We're going to be talking about wheat today and the wheat crop in the United States. Spoiler alert, it ain't doing good. So we're going to Kansas. And this article is called Disaster in the Heartland. The wheat crops in Kansas are failing on a massive scale. So here's a little picture of sad wheat. Did you know that Kansas is known as the wheat state? In 2021, it produced nearly 1/4 of all wheat that was harvested in the United States. Needless to say, we really need Kansas to come up big again this year because the war in Ukraine and a number of other factors have combined to bring us to the precipice of an absolutely horrifying global food crisis. Unfortunately, things are not going well in Kansas this year. In fact, wheat crops in much of the state are failing on a massive scale. Before we dig into this too much, you've heard about Ukraine. Everyone's heard about Ukraine. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Southern Europe. Ukraine produces an overwhelming percentage of wheat and grains for all of Europe. They have incredibly fertile soil, and the farmers that have been doing it are generational, and they've been doing it for they're just really good at farming. Okay, Ukraine is not going to produce a lot of wheat this year. They can't get supplies. They're being bombed out of cities. Their nation is, for all intents and purposes, on hold as Russia slowly takes over. I don't care what your opinions are on that, if it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm talking about wheat. And Ukraine will not be providing a lot of wheat this year. That's all I have to say about Ukraine in that regard. So, the world is going to depend on other wheat growers, like, say, the United States, that produces a huge amount of wheat, both for us and for the rest of the globe. Well, Kansas is a big producer. Like I said, Kansas produces about 25%, but their crops are not doing well. And let's dig into that a little bit more. This time of year, the wheat growing in this part of western Kansas should be thigh-high and lush green. But as months-long drought continues to parch the region, many fields tell a different story. There's nothing out there. It's dead, Farmer Vance Emke said, surveying a wheat field near his land in Lane County. It's just ankle-high straw. At this point, the U.S. Department of Agriculture is telling us that 41% of all wheat in Kansas is in poor or very poor condition. Now, I don't care if you choose to believe the U.S. Department of Agriculture, because the government kind of lies about damn near everything, or you want to believe Farmer Vance, or you want to see the pictures with your own eyes. Pick any one of those three stories, and they're telling the same thing this time. Wheat is not doing well. So this situation is particularly dire in the western portion of the state. It is being reported that many fields of wheat in western Kansas now resemble barren wastelands. Across western Kansas, many fields planted with wheat months ago now look like barren wastelands. The gaping spaces between rows of brown, shriveled plants reveal hardened dirt that's scarred with deep cracks from baking in the sun. Of all the years for drought to hit western Kansas wheat farmers, it could not have come at a worse time. Even though the price of wheat has soared to crazy levels, it is being estimated that somewhere around 10% of all wheat fields in Kansas will not even grow enough crops to bother harvesting them. Now I'm going to stop there for just a second before I go on, because this is an interesting statistic. 10% of all wheat fields are not growing enough crops to bother harvesting. Now that doesn't mean the crops are dead, okay? This means that they're not going to gather enough wheat to be able to sell it for a profit. And this means they're taking into consideration the amount they're going to have to pay for diesel fuel to run the tractors to harvest the wheat. Maybe last year, with diesel being a reasonable price, they would have harvested these not quite perfect wheat fields and they'd get by. But now, if they're marginal, they won't cover the cost of diesel. So literally, in my opinion, the cost of diesel is preventing them from harvesting even a partial field of wheat. You see how this is exacerbating the situation? But wait, there's more. This is really bad news, but the truth is that things are even worse in Colorado and Texas. To the west in Colorado, projections say nearly 1/3 of wheat fields won't produce enough to bother harvesting. In Texas, around 3/4 of the crop will likely be abandoned. Now, this is in concert with extremely dry, extremely hot, and high diesel prices. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. So this is enormous news, and it's going to deeply affect all of us in the months ahead. The worst possible time. Wheat crops are failing on a massive scale all around the western half of the nation. We've been stuck in a pattern of drought that resembles the Dust Bowl in the 1930s for many years now, and things are starting to happen which would have once been unthinkable. Lake Mead and Lake Powell have both dropped to all-time record lows, and the drinking water for tens of millions of Americans is now in jeopardy. Okay, I don't want to get too much into Lake Mead and Lake Powell because I've been working on a story about Lake Mead that is... it chills me. This is going to be a scary story, and I'm kind of putting together all the pieces and parts to make it read well and explain like a good story. And the data just keeps coming in, and it's scary. It's freaking me out a little bit. Anyway, let's see if there's anything else for this. There's the Lake Mead drying up, and I wish that more people would understand the gravity of what we're potentially facing. Down in Mexico, residents of Monterey are already being limited to 6 hours of water a day. Okay, I'm not going to go any further because the rest of this article is... We'll get back to that in a minute. They're talking about Mexico. Mexico uses a lot of water from the Colorado River. The Colorado River is what goes into Lake Mead. When Lake Mead doesn't have enough water to get through the spillway at the Hoover Dam, the Colorado River dries up. The amount of water going to Mexico from the Colorado River can now be measured in teaspoons rather than thousands of gallons, and yard acres is what they measure water in large quantities. We're stealing all the water from Mexico, and all of their farmers can't do anything about it. And this could be the spark point for a type of conflict between the U.S. and Mexico. Now, I don't want to get too much into that because it's a whole other issue, but it is something to make note of. Now, going back to the wheat, okay, we've clearly understood that wheat is coming up short this year, okay? Wheat, okay, just to put this into perspective for you, if you do any home baking, you use, what, a cup and a half of flour per small loaf of bread if you use a little bread maker machine, all right? So you're thinking, well, I don't bake bread at home. This isn't going to affect me much at all. Okay. Well, you also use wheat in, let's see, what else? Pizza dough. Oh, gosh. Your little Friday night splurge to Domino's or Papa John's is going to get more expensive. Well, what else? Hot dogs. Oh, hot dog buns. A little cookout on the weekend. Go to a ball game, grab a hot dog. Hot dog buns are going to get more expensive. What else? What else? Oh, beer. Oh, gosh. You know how many thousands of tons of grains are used for beer in this country? A lot. Tortillas. Oh, gosh, that's going to hit Chipotle and the little burrito shops. What else? Well, don't worry. I'll just stop over at Burger King and McDonald's. Get a burger on the way home. Oh, burger buns. You see where this is going? This literally is going to affect every single product you can touch. If we have a wheat shortage, there will be people that starve to death. And that's something you need to be aware of. Now, I am not shilling any products. However, you can grow your own wheat. It's possible. It's not difficult. It's a little late in the season to plant it, but you can start looking at winter wheat and grow your own, have a nice little backup plan. You can go to places like Augusten Farms and get wheat, hard, dry storage wheat, white wheat, red wheat, and keep it in 5-gallon buckets. Get a grinding mill, make your own flour. It's an option. You may want to very, very, very strongly consider it, because making tortillas from flour is ridiculously easy and so delicious. When we do Taco Tuesday at my house, we make our own tortillas with our own flour. You put it in a big old cast iron pot and you toast them up nice, and they're soft and they're chewy with just a little crunch around the edges, and you mix in some, fresh chicken and cilantro from the garden, maybe a couple of fresh sliced peppers and a little squeeze of fresh lime juice. Man, it's good. So when things get really, really bad and the grocery stores are empty, I'm still going to be eating tacos. I don't know what you guys are going to be eating. But go over to the Economic Collapse blog. I'm going to leave a link down below and read this article. Because where I stopped scrolling, the part after that gets really dark. And I want you to check out his blog. And I want you to give him the credit that he does a lot of hard work to pull these stories together. And he deserves a view. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. And one last thing. We're getting towards the end of the month. And I am just shy of 100 subscribers. And this is a feeble, sad plea. I made a bet with someone I could get to 100 within 2 months. And man, I'm close. If I can get to 100 subscribers by the end of the month, someone owes me a dinner. And if you can help me get there, that'd be kind of cool. I completely understand this is a cheap plug and a shameful ask, but I'm asking just the same. Thanks. I appreciate it.